So today we're going to be looking at another IELTS writing task 2. So this time it's agree and disagree essays. So it's quite a common essay type. So just the aims of the webinar today. So by the end of this webinar, you'll be able to understand agree and disagree questions. You'll plan your essay using a simple structure. You'll be able to use linking expressions to develop your argument. You'll make concessions to strengthen your argument, and you'll use vocabulary related to study and employment. So there's quite a lot I'd like to cover today. Okay, so we have quite a long question for you here, which I'll read through. So of course, once you get the question, you need to make sure you read through it very carefully and underline keywords, or in this case, actually, we're going to be underlining key ideas. Okay, so I'll just read through it for you. Rising university fees and scarce employment prospects for graduates have led some people to say that universities should not teach art subjects like philosophy and history, and only offer practical degree courses that maximize chances of employment. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Okay, so we're looking at really how much you agree with this or disagree. Okay, so first of all, underlining the key words, or as I said, the key, really looking at key ideas here. Okay, so this is the first key idea. Universities should not teach art subjects. Okay, can you give me some more key ideas in this question? Can anyone give it? Yeah, offer practical degrees. Yes, practical degree courses. That's the next one. Yeah, any others? Chances of employment. Okay, so you need the whole of that phrase to maximize chances of employment. Okay, any other key words there or key ideas? Yeah, so we've got these ones already. So agree or disagree. Okay, so this is in the actual question part. So that's important as well. So you need to decide whether you agree or disagree with this statement. Any ideas? What do you think? Disagree, says Hang. Disagree, Boo. Any others? Disagree. Good. I'm glad you're saying that. That's the idea. That's the answer I wanted, really. Okay, so let's have a look at it. So you need to decide your overall response. So decide whether you agree or disagree, and then why. Okay, so in order to do that, you just need to list a few reasons. So the first one, I agree because. Okay, so Manjeet is saying he or she agrees. Why do you agree? Can you think of any reasons? Brain drain. Okay, nice expression. Helps students to focus on future jobs. Yes, possibly for job hunting. Yeah, you could say that. Okay. So the first reason we have for this is it's unfair to charge money for courses with no practical value. So this is kind of what some of you are saying. So courses which will not lead to jobs. Another reason, medicine, science, and business are more useful to society. Okay, so this is debatable, obviously, but if you're going to agree with it, this could be a reason. So then most of you were saying before that you disagreed with it. So I disagree because. So why do you disagree? Helps broaden our knowledge to sky. Yes, good. Every subject matters to society. Thank you, Boo. That's a good point. Students should have other backgrounds around. Yes. Yeah, society needs a range of fields. Yes, good. Thank you. Right, so first point. subject, teach valuable thinking skills. Yeah, nice, Mirza. Good. Thinking outside of the box. Yeah, being more creative. Yeah, exactly. Being able to analyze. That's right. Find solutions. Yes. So that's one reason. The other reason, I think some of you said this before. So a knowledge of culture and history contributes to society. Okay, so these are two valid reasons. All right, so looking back at the question, so before starting to write, it's useful to think of ways to paraphrase key ideas. Okay, so we've isolated some of the key ideas from the question, and I just want you to think of different ways to express these ideas. So we've got art subjects here, practical courses, teach, okay, so that's a key verb, and chances of employment. And then we've got some vocabulary for you here. All right, so humanities, which section would this go in? Section 1, yes, that's right. Okay, another word for art subjects. Develop, quite easy. 3, that's right. The arts, yeah, 1, good. Okay, job opportunities. Yeah, 4, that's correct. Vocational disciplines. 2, good. Okay, instill is 3. Yeah, this word actually, it's funny, it's a funny word because sometimes it's spelt with 2 L's, sometimes it's spelt with 1. So British English, I think it's 2. American English, it's 1. So you just need to make sure that you're consistent with that. Employability. So vocational disciplines, well, it means really the same as, it's similar to practical courses. So it's the courses that can lead to particular jobs. So employability is 4, that's right. Promote is 3, yeah. Okay, STEM subjects. I don't know if you know what this means. So most of you saying 2. Does anyone know what STEM stands for? What does the S stand for? Yeah, that's right. So science, technology. What about the E? Yeah, science, technology, engineering, that's right, and maths, good. A range of careers. 4, that's right. Studying society and culture. Good, so that's number 1. So then the next one, quite easy. Yeah, so number 2. Great. So, I mean, obviously, you know, if you're doing this in the exam, it will take quite a while to make a table like this. But this is the kind of thing you should be doing in order to expand your vocabulary. So you should be doing it in preparation for this exam. Right. So let's now look at the structure. Okay. So we have the introduction. Any ideas what comes first in the introduction? General idea. Okay. What's paraphrase? Yeah. Yeah, good. So it's always paraphrasing the question. It's always the first part. What about the second part? Thesis statement. That's right. Good. What does the thesis statement mean, really? The thesis. Yes. What is it? Yeah, opinion. That's right, Mirza. So it's giving your opinion. So saying what you think. Okay. And then body A, body B are structured in the same way. So the first part. Yeah, Takeshi, thank you. So that's topic sentence to start with. So that's really telling you what the paragraph will be about. And then you give an explanation. What's the next part? I think, yeah, Neo's correct. So you give an example. Okay, what about the last part? Okay, slightly different. Right, this is slightly different sort of question. For this one, you have to make a concession, and what do you think the other word is? So it's not really conclusion. No, it's not really solve. Sort of balance, Mers, it's kind of like balance. It's that we use the word counter, okay? So I'll just explain briefly what this means. So to make a concession, so you're starting off arguing for one side. What do you do when you make a concession? What does that mean? Yeah, Sky, that's correct. So you're kind of explaining the other idea. You're acknowledging the other idea anyway. So you're acknowledging it. So you're accepting that it exists, but then you're coming back to your own idea, which is when you counter it. Okay, so countering it just means coming back to your original argument. Okay, and then the conclusion. What do you do there? So something, the main points. Yes, exactly. So reiterate or restate the main points and give your opinion. And what about the last part? Yes, I should have. Good. So you make a recommendation. Okay, so that's the basic structure. So as you can see, there are 4 paragraphs in this essay. Okay, so let's now look at the introduction. So you need to paraphrase the question, as we've said. In order to do that, you can find synonyms. So I'm just going to highlight some of these words. So see if you can find synonyms for this phrase. So rising university fees. So given the, what could you say here? Yeah, increase could be. Increase is a good word. So it's very similar to rising. Yeah, increase in course fees, that's a good example. Yeah, so fee hike, Monica, that's nice. It's a little bit informal. So given the increasing cost of net graduates, how could you rephrase this? Another word for scarce. The lack of employment, labour. Yeah, it's sort of similar. Limited, yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Pat. So limited what? Yeah, low job opportunities, Hassan, that makes sense. Limited graduate job opportunities, yes. Okay, have led some people to say that. So as you can see, that's highlighted, some people to say that. So that's in the active voice. So can you put that into the passive or use a passive phrase? Has been said. Yeah, something similar to that. It is said that. Yeah, so that's kind of similar. It's often said that. Good, Takashi, that's a good expression. It is often suggested that. Can you think of any other ways to paraphrase this? So any other, so Takashi gave a good example. It's often said that. Can you think of any other ways of saying using the passive? It is opined by, yeah, that's a little bit formal, Q. It has been argued. Yes. Good. It is believed that, that's another good one. So let's see the ones we've got. It is widely believed that. You can also say it is commonly held that. Okay, it has been debated that. It is debated. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's not often used like that. It's considered, you could say that. I would say these three are probably the ones to use. It is widely believed that, it is commonly held that, and it is frequently argued that. Okay, and then you can also use, change the word order. So we've got practical courses highlighted. So instead of saying that, you could use a relative pronoun there. So degree courses which are practical, rather than, okay, and then, so word form, so art subjects. How could you use a different word form for art? Yeah, artistic, Mirza, you could say that. So artistic subjects. Okay, so I'll just read that out again. So given the increased cost of university tuition and limited graduate job opportunities, it is often suggested that universities focus solely on degree courses which are practical rather than artistic subjects. Okay, so that, then going back to your our opinion. So our opinion was that we disagree. Okay, I disagree because, first reason, art subjects teach valuable critical thinking skills, and the second reason, knowledge of culture and history contributes to society. Okay, so now we need to make the thesis statement. Right, so in the thesis statement, you're giving your opinion using a phrase such as this. So I strongly disagree with this point of view, as I believe that. Okay, so in here, yeah, I was just going to say we need a concession word. So a few of you have come up with it. So Neo and Clover, yeah, however, good. So I believe that subjects, okay, so which linking word goes in here? Such as, thank you, Sky. Yeah, such as art and philosophy can instill valuable critical thinking skills. Okay, and then you're adding another reason. So what could you say here? So you don't need to say "in my opinion" again because you're saying this at the beginning by saying you strongly disagree. So that's giving your opinion. So it's not which are. So you're actually adding something here. So what could you say? Yeah, while, good. While also. Okay, so that's giving one reason, and then it's adding by adding this phrase here, while also, making a significant contribution to society as a whole. Okay, so there you've clearly got your two reasons. Okay, so then looking at the body paragraphs, so then you're basically extracting those two reasons from the thesis statement and you're going on to discuss them. Okay, so the first one, you need to start with a topic sentence. Okay, and just leading into it, it's nice to use a phrase like "first of all." It just makes it really clear that this is going to be the first reason. So first of all, studying the humanities can help develop critical thinking skills, which are, okay, can you finish that sentence? Let's see if you've got the same one. Vital for your future, yeah. Invaluable, yes. And of great importance, yeah, could say that. So we've just said are useful in a range of careers. And then you need an explanation. Okay, so you could maybe say this is because, so you need a kind of lead into that. So here we've used by studying these subjects, students become active thinkers who are able to, what do you think? To be competent, innovate, could be. Analyze. Yeah, I mean, we've added like a few different things that they can do. So solve problems, evaluate different options, and make reasoned decisions. Okay, so that's the explanation. And then an example. So these skills are transferable to many different careers, such as, okay, can you think of any careers that might be appropriate? Nursing, possibly. Medicine, yeah. Politics, business, dentistry. Yes, I think that needs a bit of practical skills as well, and nursing. So I would, for this, think of something that specifically requires these kind of skills. So maybe not so much practical. So in other words, something like law, politics, or education. Okay, and then you're making a concession. So as I said before, so making a concession is really acknowledging the other side of the argument, and then you're coming back to your argument. Okay, so we've got a nice linking phrase here. So therefore, although it appears that studying the humanities will not help graduates find a rewarding job. Okay, so this is the other side of the argument. It can be argued that these skills, in fact, increase their employability. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a lot of linking words in there. So all the words in yellow are linking words, and that just creates, what does that create within the paragraph? So it's one of the IELTS criteria. It's flow. What's the word beginning with C? Yeah, so when you've got lots of different linking words, what does that create? So similar to flow, it helps, it's like continuity, it helps the ideas to stick together. What's the word that we're always talking about? Cohesion, good, thank you. Yeah, so it creates cohesion. And looking at pronoun referencing now. Okay, so pronoun referencing. So we've got a noun here, the humanities. So can you find a phrase which includes a pronoun that replaces that phrase? That makes sense. So it's the next, the next sentence, these subjects. Okay, so instead of repeating the humanities, you can use a pronoun reference, the subject. So that also creates cohesion. And then we have another one here. So critical thinking skills. Yep, good. These skills, Eshita, thank you. So we've got that actually twice. We've got it here and we've got it here. Okay. So remember with pronoun referencing, it needs to be very clear what you're referencing. Okay, so sometimes people will they will use these expressions and it's not very clear. So looking at this, it is clear. So we've said these skills and then next sentence, these skills again. So it's not too far away from the original noun. Okay, and then looking at the next reason now. So you're adding the other reasons. So you can start with a word like furthermore. Any other words you could use there? Any other linking words? Moreover, that's right. Secondly, yes, you could say secondly, Robin. Or in addition, Takeshi, that's right. Any others? In addition. Yeah. I mean, I'd probably say in addition, moreover, secondly, they're all fine. So expertise in subjects such as art and history allows graduates to, okay, what does it allow graduates to do? Yeah, so remember we're looking at the second reason here, so to contribute. Yeah, contribute to a wider civil society. Okay, and then you need an explanation. Right, so using this linking phrase, this is because knowledge of culture and history is an essential part of a civilized country. Okay, and then an example. So can anyone give an example? Yeah, this might help you. Without an understanding of history, for example, we would what? How could you finish that? Forget our orange is nice. That's really nice, Guy. Yeah, we would understand our culture. That's good. We would destroy, possibly. Yeah, you might need a longer sentence. Take uninformed decisions. Yeah, Abby, that's good. So we came up with this explanation. So we would be unable to learn from the mistakes of the past. Okay, and then making concession. Okay, so again, acknowledging the other side. So while there is no question about the value of science, medicine, and business in our lives, okay, and then you're countering. So you're coming back to your original point with a nice linking phrase here. It is clear that the humanities also make an essential contribution. Okay, so as you can see, this paragraph is structured exactly the same way as the previous one. And there's lots of lovely linking words in there, nice linking phrases. Okay, and then coming to the conclusion. So you're restating the main points and opinion. And as usual, as in every conclusion, you don't introduce any new ideas here. Okay, so you need to start with a phrase like, in conclusion. Can you think of any other ones? To sum up, in a nutshell, it's a little bit informal. A recapitulate is not very natural, really, but to conclude, you could say, in summary. Okay, that sort of makes sense. To summarize, yeah. So in conclusion, it is illogical to suggest that the arts should not be taught in university. Okay, so this is your main point again, as the critical thinking skills and cultural knowledge they develop benefits both graduates and our societies. Okay, so you're just saying exactly the same thing again. And then, as it says, you can make a recommendation, and it is optional, so you don't have to, but it's just a nice way to wrap up the essay. Sorry. So what could you say here? What kind of recommendation could you make? I would suggest that, yeah, that's a nice way to begin it, Rand. Any other way you could start? In my opinion, yeah, you could say that. I believe, okay, I think you need to, in a way, make it clear that it is a recommendation. So you could use a phrase like this. I recommend that, or I would suggest. I would probably use one of those two. I recommend that universities make instructions in these subjects available to all students. Yeah, it could be suggested. You could use the passive there. Okay, and then this is the final essay. So as you can see, there are 4 paragraphs, as I said before. It's a perfect number of words, so it's 273 words. And I know some of you, at least one of you, is looking for a band 9. This is a band 9, this essay. So it'd be useful for all of you. Just some tips for you. So as you know, all of us keep saying, please don't start writing straight away. Make sure that you make a plan. What's the purpose of making a plan? Why do you think it helps? Yeah, it helps you to organize, exactly. To organize your ideas. Yeah, Merza, to save time, to keep focused. Yes. So to save time, that's right. So a lot of people think that it doesn't save time. You know, you're spending time writing the plan, but actually, if you do devote a little bit of time to the plan, it will save time when you're writing it. Another thing, a lot of people are always asking, you know, how do you count your words? So we recommend that you shouldn't count your words. So if you can work out roughly how many words you have per line, so generally it's about 10, I think, and you need 250 words, so you can work out really how many lines you need. So obviously you need 25 at least. You can also practice with the official IELTS answer paper. So if you download that, you will get used to knowing exactly how much you should be writing. At the end, you should be spending at least 2 minutes checking your grammar and spelling. At least, I would say possibly more. Depends, actually, it really depends on your, maybe your issues. If grammar is one of your issues, I would probably spend a little bit longer. And you should be practicing with a range of question types and topics. Yeah, so that's it really. Thank you.
Okay.
So Jamie, are you there? Yeah. Any questions? I'll leave this up for you actually so you can have a look at this.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks so much for that, Mary, for that great presentation. Okay. Yeah, brilliant. And thank you guys for all your suggestions, for your different answers and the language that you gave. There's some really nice vocabulary there, so well done. We will have some time now to look at and discuss some of your questions. So feel free to add them to the Q&A. Any questions you have, if you can pop them into the Q&A and we'll discuss them in a moment. So yeah, thanks guys for your nice feedback. That's excellent. It's really nice to see. Thank you. And don't worry, Nada, I can see your question. We'll get to it in a moment. Okay, so no worries. Guys, to keep things fair, if you can add your questions to the Q&A, we'll start with the questions there first. Okay, so if you can copy them over to the Q&A. Cheers, Max. May the force be with you. Yeah, indeed. So guys, before we look at your questions, I would just like to do a bit of promotion for our speaking and writing evaluation service. This is something that we offer via our website, IELTSonlinetest.com. If you're interested in having a qualified examiner look through your writing, you can submit an essay, task 1 or task 2, via our website. One of our qualified examiners will look through it, look at your strengths, your weaknesses, the different types of errors that you might be making, and will suggest ways that you can improve your writing and improve your band score. So you'll get a full written report based on the writing that you submit. And we also offer a speaking evaluation service as well, where you can book a speaking exam with a qualified speaking examiner, and that will help you to improve your speaking skills. So if you're interested in that, I've put the link in the chat there, so feel free to check it out on our website. Okay, let's take a look at some of your questions. The first one is from Nada Ali, and it is about the agree and disagree question in task 2. Nada is asking, do I have to state the 2 views with my opinion, or is it okay just to discuss the view that I agree with? So I guess this is an agree, disagree. Is it okay just to present one side of the, like one opinion?
Actually, that's a good question, because I was reading up on this earlier just to kind of make sure that I could answer these questions. Hopefully I'm not going to answer it correctly. Right. Because in the question it says to what extent, that kind of suggests that you need to be thinking of both sides. So if you're looking at, you need to look at both sides disagreeing and agreeing in order to score a higher band, so I believe.
Yeah.
You need to touch on both sides. I mean, I think if you just talk about one, it's okay. Maybe you're not going to score as well. Is that correct, Jamie?
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think or typically for agree, disagree, it's okay just to say, well, it says, what extent do you agree or disagree? And if you say, well, I completely agree with this, and then you give reasons for that, then you're answering the question because you're saying that you completely agree. But yeah, there's also, the idea that if you can mention the other point of view, that will help improve your score because it shows that you've considered different aspects of it. So one strategy you can use for this is in your body paragraphs to use the concession. If you make a concession, as we've done in the last sentence of each body paragraph, this kind of shows that you're aware of arguments on both sides, while still allowing you just to make a main point, to agree with one side. So that's the advice we typically give for that. Yeah. What do you think, Mary? Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I was just going to say also it allows you to show a wider range of vocabulary as well. So if you're showing that you know different concession phrases, and that will enable you to score higher in that sort of section as well.
Yeah. I know that some teachers recommend for the to what extent question writing a 3-body paragraph. So you can say, 2 paragraphs about the side that you agree with and 1 paragraph about the side that you disagree with. And that's another way to show both sides of the topic. So there are different ways to fully answer the question there. But yeah, as you said, Mary, I'd agree for getting a really high score, fully answering the question, it is good to consider a little bit of the other point of view as well. Okay, great. Let's see, we've got a question here from Cleemv. Cleemv is asking, they have read that it's better to make 3 arguments. Is it a problem if I only write 2 arguments? Is 2 arguments enough rather than making 3 main points?
This is kind of what you were sort of answering before, Jamie, isn't it? Yeah. Having three a paragraph per argument. So yeah, it's kind of I suppose what we were answering. So it is okay, but obviously the fuller the argument, the better. Yeah, I think so. I mean, typically because of the word count, if you're going to fully develop each one of your points, you might not have space to write 3 body paragraphs. So I would recommend just writing 2 fully developed main points, and you won't lose marks for that if you've supported them properly. Okay, let's see. Clem has quite a few questions here. So Clem's second question is, I've read that adding adjectives such as strongly agree or disagree is only good in the to what extent type question. Would you agree with that? Adding, I think here, adverbs like I strongly agree or I strongly disagree. Would you recommend only using them for what extent type of questions? I would. Yeah. I wouldn't. No, I think you can use. I don't think you could use them for any question as long as you're showing how you strongly agree. You need to. It needs to be a strong argument. Yeah. Because I mean that's a collocation. I strongly agree. It's a quite a common collocation, so you wouldn't just use it with this type of question. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'd say if you can add more adverbs to your writing and use them accurately, that's only going to, improve your score. I don't think they're limited to any one question type claim. Okay, let's see. We've got a third and final question here from Clem, which is about the introduction. He observed, or Clem, I'm not sure, they observed that our introduction is long, and he's heard that it should be short and sweet. Do we need to cover all the details in the question? What if the question is too long? Sorry, Jamie, you just disappeared then.
Did I just cut out?
Yeah.
Can I say
I'm not
the
sure if that was me or you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, could you repeat what you said just then? I just missed that.
Yeah, so Claim is saying they saw that our introduction was very long, and they've heard that it should be short and sweet. Should we cover all the details in the question?
Well, I think because of this type of question, maybe you're comparing with other types of essay, but with this one, because you're kind of making a concession within the introduction, so it's naturally going to be longer because the structure is actually quite similar to normal essays, but because you're adding the concession in there, it probably is slightly longer.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's answering the question.
Yeah. I think I think you're right to point out there is a slightly longer introduction there, but as long as you're not going into details in your introduction, I think that's fine. If you're using your introduction to paraphrase the question and to outline your main points, that's absolutely fine. As long as you're not including details and specific examples in your introduction, then it's okay to make it a little bit longer. Just so
because there's no, I'm sorry, I was going to say there's no explanation in this introduction. It's literally just mentioning the points. Yeah. And then they're expanded on in the body paragraphs.
Yeah. And as you say, Claire, sometimes the question is very long. So in order to paraphrase it, you might need to summarize it a little bit, not to just repeat everything in the question. If you can find a way to pick out the key points and present them concisely, that will help you to keep the introduction short and sweet, as you say. Good.
Yeah, so also, sorry, Jim, I was just looking, because the word counter is, obviously you need to write 250 words, so this is slightly longer, which is fine. So you could maybe cut it down a little bit, the introduction.
Yeah, excellent. So guys, I can see some of you have just joined us in the chat, so welcome in. Welcome to, I think, is Tam, and also to Kim. Welcome to our webinar. I think you just joined us a bit later. Feel free to add any questions you have to the Q&A. We've got some time now to discuss any questions you have about IELTS writing or any other aspect of the test. So let's take a look. We've got a question here from Ellie. Ellie is asking, what should I do if I have no idea about the topic? This is quite a difficult question. Yeah.
Yeah. This seems to be one of the most common questions, actually. Really, I mean, they're not out to trick you, the examiners. They're out to get you to pass this exam. So generally, they're not going to choose something you're not going to know anything about. You're going to know something about the topic. And if you don't, then you probably shouldn't, you shouldn't be taking the exam. You will know something about it. They're very common topics. And also what you can do beforehand is just research, by looking at the kind of topics that are always asked or always focused on. You can think about them beforehand, so you can actually prepare. Because it tends to be the same sorts of topics that come up.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree with that. And, as Mary said, the topics are general in nature. They're things that, most people will be able to have an opinion on. And you don't need to be an expert. You don't need to give, convincing, detailed explanations about anything technical. It's just asking for your opinion. So if you can decide, okay, what do I think? And think of 2 reasons to support your opinion, that's really all you need. You don't need to be an expert on the topic, okay? We do have a video explaining some strategies for this as well on our YouTube channel, so you could check that out as well for a bit more information. Let's see, so next question we have is from Stephen. Stephen is asking, what will happen if I write 1 body paragraph in my essay?
I don't know. I think as long as the structure is clear.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really seen one body paragraph in this type of essay, but I'm sure that as long as it's clear what you're saying, it wouldn't be a problem. But I think it's probably better to have 2 body paragraphs at least. Would you say?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're likely to lose marks there for coherence and cohesion, because the way that you've organized your ideas, if it's just one long body paragraph, then your main ideas the organization won't be so evident to the examiner. So I would definitely suggest splitting your main ideas into 2. Yeah, exactly, Leah. Paragraphing is important. It's similar as well why you should try to avoid writing just one sentence in either your introduction or your conclusion, because one sentence doesn't really count as a paragraph. You should aim for at least 2 sentences for each one of your paragraphs. Okay, so
yeah, and also I was just going to say, because you're starting a new point, like with the second point, you really need a very clear topic sentence. So if you've got everything in one paragraph, you're only going to have one topic sentence. So it's going to make it unclear. And as Jamie said, it's incoherent.
Yeah, definitely. I can see a question from Ishita. Ishita is asking, can we have a session on advantages and disadvantages and 2-question essays? We certainly can, Ishita. We might even have one coming up this month. We have discussed both views on the 16th of this month, and we will have a direct question essay, advantage, disadvantage, on Monday, the 7th of October. So you'll be able to catch both of them. Also on the 28th of October, we have direct question essay. So if you can bear with us and wait for the next month or so, we'll have some different question types coming up. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I just put up the structure again because Max was asking for just to see the structure, so that's why that's gone up there.
Yeah,
just
awesome.
To remind you of that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Very excellent. Let's see if we can go through a few more of your questions. Mirza, you're asking, how much time will it take to fully prepare for IELTS overall? And yeah, any thoughts on that, Mary? It's quite a difficult question.
Yeah, so obviously it depends on your starting point and your end point. So it's what you're aiming to get and where you're coming from. It's really difficult to say because everyone's going to have different levels of English when they start studying for IELTS. I mean, some people can do it very quickly in a month or 2 months, and also it depends on how you work. It depends on how motivated you are, how much work you're putting in.
Yeah, and the band score you're aiming for. So which score are you aiming for, Mirza? Because I remember speaking with you, 7. I mean, I feel like you might be getting pretty close by now. If you've been doing some of the practice tests on our site, the kind of feedback you've been getting, that should give you an idea of how close you are to getting that target score. Okay, so fingers crossed. Yeah, excellent. I can see a question there from Tam. Can they see the introduction? I think we can go back and take a look at that for you. Let's see. We have a question here from Michaela about spelling. How much does spelling drag down your score? For example, doubling a letter, for example, like double S instead of single S in disappointed. How much of an impact will that have on your score?
Well, I mean, I think if you're making regular spelling mistakes all the way through, that will have a strong impact because that'll affect your the lexical accuracy. But if it's the odd slip, if it's the odd word, I don't think it matters too much.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's you know, you can still get a high score for lexical resource, even if you make 1 or 2 slips with spelling. Okay, great. Let's see. We've got, I'll just bring up Q&A here. So Mirza has a question about the listening section of the test. Do we have any suggestions for improving our listening skills?
Oh, gosh. I mean, it's obviously doing past papers, but I just think with listening, it's something that you know, you're not really just thinking about the test. It's something that you just need to be doing on a regular basis. So listening to audiobooks, I would recommend, TED Talks. I tell my students to watch soap operas, like, well, I don't know if you're living in the UK and I'm living in the UK, but watching something like Coronation Street or some particular soap opera or drama on a regular basis, so you get used to more of colloquial expressions and natural speech. But I don't think it's something that you can cram at the last minute. It's a skill that you need to develop over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think practice with the IELTS test, getting used to focusing for, you know, the 20 minutes at a time can be really challenging, just to be able to listen with that intense focus. Practicing prediction strategies as well. If you're you know, using the time that you have while they're giving an example, or, you know, you've got 30 seconds before each section, practice using that time to read through the questions, predict possible answers, looking at maybe the form of the missing words as well. There are some, you know, some of the table completion, getting used to predicting from the rows and the columns of the table, you know, where the answer is going to be and what kind of form the answer is going to take. I think those are things that can help you to become more efficient when you listen, and just make it a bit easier, because it's, I completely agree with you, Mary, that you need to just have lots of practice listening. But even as a native speaker, I think the listening test is such a kind of unnatural, specific type of listening that you do, that just the more practice you have listening in the context of the test and trying to predict the answers, that can really help you. So yeah, I would recommend doing that as much as possible. Let's see, we have a couple of minutes left, so we can look at maybe 1 or 2 more questions here. Question from Kushik. Kushik is asking, can I state neither agree or disagree? And giving reasons for not agreeing or disagreeing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but it just sounds to me like it's a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of creating a difficult job for yourself if you do that. So even if even if you're thinking you don't actually agree or disagree, just choose one, because you can still give reasons even if you're not agreeing with those reasons, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think you have to be really confident in your ability to, you know, neither disagree or disagree and present another point of view. If you feel like you have the ability to do that, then yeah, I would agree. But otherwise, probably best to keep it simple. Yeah, excellent. Let's see, I've got a quick final question here from Mirza, which is that, are the IELTS questions the same for all countries on a particular day or time, or will it be different? Mirza, that's a good question. The test procedures are fairly secretive, so we're not sure if it's the same all over the world or not. There are a bank of questions that are used for different parts of the test, and I believe they're just used differently in different places. So yeah, hard to answer that question, I'm afraid. Okay, right guys, I think, and Mary, we are about running out of time for today, so I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up there. So I would just like to say a very big thank you to Mary for presenting.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you very much, Jamie, for being a lovely host as usual.
Yeah, and
for everyone else for the great questions.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. You'll be able to watch the recording for this on our YouTube channel, so please feel free to check that out. If you can give us a like and a share, that will help us to continue providing these webinars. So do please check that out on social media. And yeah, we'll be back again for another webinar very soon. So hopefully we'll see you again. Okay. Cool.
Yes, so thank you everyone. So I'll see you soon.
Cool. Cheers, Mary. Thank you.
Bye, 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 Jamie. Bye,
Bye, guys.
Bye.